Greetings everyone, I'm Mar. Once again, this is my opinion. As you can tell from the title up there, I'm continuing my trek through the episodes of Batman the Animated Series. This, of course, is the third episode production-wise. This is Nothing to Fear. I didn't have my notes up, sorry. And it's directed by Boyd Kirkland, and it's from a teleplay by Henry T. Gilroy and Sean Catherine Derrick. Now, rip the band-aid off the front with that. This is an episode that is disliked by the producers due to them feeling that the script is mediocre, the pacing is bad, and the method used to defeat Scarecrow to be overly cliche, which the method is they use his own fear toxin against him. And this is what Bruce Timm had to say about it. It was written by Henry Gilroy, who had never written cartoons before. He was a film editor here and always wanted to get into writing. At the time, we didn't have a story editor, so we gave it a go. When he turned in his first draft, which wasn't bad, we had hired our first story editor, Sean Derrick. We immediately came to loggerheads over the show. Some of the dialogue she changed was a change for the better. So I'm assuming, based on that the main thing changed was some of the dialogue and maybe a couple plot points, but the overall thing is still the same to Mr. Gilroy's. I have to say, I didn't really think the pacing was that bad. And pacing felt just more or less like how the previous two ones were, just, unlike the first episode, it's not establishing a show, and unlike the second one, doesn't really feel like it's like a step up from I'd say, but that's because there's better Scarecrow plots that they do later on. But for an early episode of the show, it's not too bad. Yeah, the method that they used to defeat Scarecrow, a little cliche, but it wouldn't be Scarecrow's first outing without them at least using his toxin against him in some manner. I mean, even Christopher Nolan did that in Batman Begins. The script, the dialogue, I didn't really find it that bad. Maybe it was bad from what they changed it for. I mean, I do like Scarecrow's use of big words. Really shows he's a professor. And of course, we got Henry Pollock II voicing Dr. Crane, and he does a pretty good job voicing this character. If there's anything a little weird about Scarecrow in here, it is the design. I mean, it is then comic book accurate. But maybe in an episode that would have been more in shadows, it would have been better. It just doesn't translate as well. It's this next design we see, which is more like a pumpkin head design. That one, it fits it a little bit better. But of course, even then, that pales in comparison to the design we're going to get near the end of the show when it's the new Batman Adventures, where we get the Leatherface-inspired one with the rope around his neck. That is the Scarecrow that's scary. This one, it does for a first costume attempt, I guess. And this episode, I do remember one thing from childhood, and that is the intro scene when Scarecrow uses his fear toxin on the security guard, and he's like, "Spiders! The spiders are crawling all over me!" And then his henchmen, which, typical dumb henchmen we've seen in thousands of cartoons, movies, and all that, like, "Gee, boss, what's going on with him? He is suffering from arachnophobia." You know what? "A fear of spiders, you nincompoop." That whole part. Now, I got a little bit into the plot already. Now, Scarecrow and his men are raiding a university in Gotham to steal the money. Now, this takes place a little bit after we see Bruce is there. He's talking with a reporter and talking with the guy who runs the university that knew his dad. This is to set up Bruce's little subplot throughout the episode where he's wondering if his dad would be proud of him, partially spurred on by the fear toxin. But we got to plant that seed. It's where they're talking, and the professor's like, "I knew your father, and he would be ashamed if he could see you in your playboy ways." Which this is the first time they really mention Bruce being a playboy. We've hinted that he does use his money, like usually to donate it and other stuff, but we haven't really seen them talk about the playboy, or to go in more extreme of the fop that was in the comics and was drawn on for Batman Begins, which I've said time and again, I don't really like the fop persona for him. Maybe a little, at least the way that Nolan did it, wasn't really a fan of, and then other times I've seen him like, it works a little bit. But it's one of those things that you can only use it for so long before someone's going to go like, "This guy's supposed to be Batman?" I can see it. Especially if you know what movie Bruce and his parents went to go watch. Mark of Zorro. De La Vega's cover is a fop. There you go. That's the whole reason for it, by the way. Now, Batman does show up and goes to thwart Scarecrow and his henchmen. Now, but before he does that, we find out the part of the reason why the Scarecrow is going there. It's not just them stealing money from it. As he puts it, take what you can and then burn the rest. Why, boss? It's not about money, it's about revenge. Of course, Batman gets in there and does quell it a little bit, but looks like Scarecrow was ready for this eventuality, which makes sense. I mean, you live in Gotham City long enough, you're going to know about the Batman, and you're going to want to have a contingency plan for it, even if it's just up here. And with how Crane carries himself and believes his intellect to be superior, he's going to have that in mind. So he has one thug go distract him. He has the other one set up. Batman takes care of the first one, but then the second one gets a jump on him after Crane has a little chat with him. And of course, he gets a dart with the gas to the back. This is a delay one where we slowly see these side effects. So it's not quite like in Batman Begins where he's starting to see everything. It's a delayed response. And even though he's fighting it off because he's Batman, you can still see it's affecting him. Like he cannot capture Crane and his minions and they escape. And of course, Bullock is his usual self when he finds out, like, oh, you let him escape? Oh, poor baddie, woo. His usual self. And then when he sees that Batman doesn't want to turn over a piece of evidence he got from the Scarecrow, he pulls his usual stuff. Well, oh, I'm going to have to take it from you. Of course, Batman does his usual, I'm Batman, out of there. No one's looking. Because he rolled a natural 20, even in his current condition. Batman gets back to the Batcave and starts analyzing the little bit of fabric he got from Crane. They say Scarecrow because I'm jumping ahead. And you could tell with how they design him here, with the stubble and all that, and the sweat, that he's really feeling the effects of it. Alfred steps in and tells him, like, yeah, some chicken soup and some rest. And it does help a little bit. And to go with that, this is the last time that Clive Revell is going to voice Alfred. And I'm going to have to say it, that this episode is probably the most we've gotten out of him, other than him just establishing what the character sounds like and some stuff. The best performance-wise. And the role is taken over by Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. for the remainder of the DCAU. Man, it's one of those things like, could have been good if he had more time to work with it, but alas, he decided to bow out here. Now, Scarecrow makes another appearance at a gala where he unleashes the fear toxin on a bunch of people, including the very professor that was talking to Bruce earlier, and he unleashes it in his face, like, over my dead body. Well, if you insist. And of course, oh no, I'm dead. Of course, Batman shows up, and this is where we find out that fear toxin that Scarecrow used on him was a delayed reaction one. And we see that his contingency plan here was, alright, if Batman shows up, people will start seeing him as something scary world related to what he's wearing, and that's what happens. So the people start attacking Batman. Scarecrow and his minions make a getaway and try to get away by blimp, but of course Batman gets out of there and chases them. Leads to a little confrontation on the blimp between them, which of course Scarecrow escapes. And Batman, if the computer has finished analyzing that fabric from earlier, and it turns out there's only a few places that manufacture it. One of them I like, nice little reference to the comics, is Star Labs. When I was a little youth watching this, I would not have gotten that reference, but now I get that reference. I'm like, good on you guys. Nice little reference. And of course, cross-references it with people who have grudges against the university, and only one person pops up. Dr. Crane. And part of that was that he used to be a professor at the university. He specialized in the fear aspect of psychology, and he ran experiments on people. Experiments that most likely would be considered illegal, but Crane seems to want to ignore that part of it. And he got fired because of his experiments, and now he wants revenge. So that line he said earlier, it's not about money, it's about revenge. This is why. It's like, fire me, will ya? Ha 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 ha! I'll be laughing over your burned money in your burned university. Now that Batman knows who he is and where he's going to be, Batman shows up. And this, of course, is when Crane takes off his mask and we see what he looks like. Well, we've already seen what he looks like, but we see what he looks like in that outfit without the mask. and he gets exposed to his fear toxin. Of course, he sees a giant flying bat, and then when he finally confronts Batman, he sees Batman as this like weird demonic-looking bat thing, kind of like a gargoyle. Which I like the design of. If anything, they maybe could have shouted it a bit more. And of course, Crane cowers in fear. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself, as a president said about 90-ish years ago. And you know the phrase, fight fire with fire? You're gonna fight fear, you're gonna use fear, we're gonna fight you with fear, and this is what happens. Or as a famous commentator would say, turnabout's fair play. Crane's gonna use fear against you, Batman's gonna use that fear right back. And in here it works. Scarecrow gets defeated, he gets taken in, Batman saves the day. Now, his whole little arc thing about whether his dad would be proud of him or not, when the fear toxin is used against him, that is the thing that Batman is worrying about. I mean, he has a little vision looking into a fire of his father talking to him and sounding disappointed. And when he's in the Batcave talking with Alfred, even Alfred, it's like, your father would be proud of you because I'm proud of you. That's the moment I said, that's the part of the episode I mean when I say Clive. This is the part where we got the most out of him, acting-wise. And the episode has a pretty good ending where he goes to his parents' graves, and then, you know, he's looking down at them, like thinking, like, yes, I know he would be proud of me. So that little doubt thing he has overcome despite the fear toxin. And I like the way that they kind of illuminate the shadows and all that, where Bruce is turning with the sun light and all that, and the way that the light hits him and makes a shadow and makes it look like the cape of the Batman. I'm like, oh, that's a nice little artistic touch there. That's why the stuff like that, looking at it, I'm like, okay, I can see maybe since they're very close to it and they're the ones that made it, that they feel that this is not a good episode, but I think it's an alright episode. The Onu, for me, is probably not going to be as good in comparison once we get to the later ones, but for a beginning of the show episode, it's not that bad. And maybe it's because it's one of the ones that I still actually remember from my childhood. I got that little bit of a bias there. But just watching it straight up, it's like, it's not that bad. It's just another one of those ones where we're establishing the whole world, establishing characters and all that, establishing certain plot threads and all that. That it works in that regard. It definitely works better than the previous one, but I think it's because that one was a little too goofy. This one, I mean, there is some goofy things, but it's a comic book show involving a character dressed up as a bat fighting a guy dressed up as a scarecrow using fear toxin. There's going to be a little bit of silliness. You just got to strike that balance of silly to seriousness. And I think so far they are trying to strike that balance. Previous episode didn't really succeed other than a couple moments. This one a little bit more. It's going to be one of those things that as the show goes along, we're going to be striking that chord a little bit better. Some exceptions, but you can definitely see from this episode they're still getting their footing creative-wise, but it's still getting there. And of course, next episode going to be another Joker episode, so we'll see how they improved on the Clown Prince of Crime in his second appearance. Next episode will be The Last Laugh. Till then, everybody.